Now, AmaZulu King, Mrs. Zulukazwelithini, has called on men in KwaZulu-Natal to stand up against GBV and femicide. The King led the second annual National Men's Day March against gender-based violence and femicide in Durban today. The march was organized by the Good Men Foundation and the Zulu Queens Maskolo Foundation.
Kodwa isimo esikhona asikhombi ukuthi sikhona madoda. Isimo esibhekene naso asikhombi ukuthi singamadoda angempela. Ngiyacela ke sizwe sikaMageba, ngiyazibona ezinye izizwe. Indawo yethu leya lapha kwaZulu. Ngiyinkosi yenu, nisizwe sami. Angifuni ukukhulumela ezinye izizwe futhi angithanda ukuthi ngiyikhulumele makuza ezintweni ezifana nalezi. Ngiyacela sizwe sami sengiyacela ke manje ngoba ingoyama ebuzile ihamba likhuluma leli ihlazo ukuthi umuntu wesifazane kathintwa ingane ukuze ikuhloniphe njengomuntu omdala kumele uyihloniphe wena kuqala ube ubaba kuyo.
For more on this, we are now joined by Lebo Ramafoko from Oxfam. She's an Executive Director there, and she joins us now for this discussion. Lebo, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, 17,410 cases have been reported just in the second quarter of 2023 when it comes to GBV. Where are we getting it wrong as a country?
Well, I think there is a number of factors that we must consider. One of them is the lack of accountability, the problems that women face when they've got to report cases, but a highly permissive culture of violence in society that stems from beliefs that a woman needs to behave in a particular manner, or also the fact that men have a right and are entitled to treat women largely and children in a particular manner. And so when you combine all of those factors, they give you an environment where first and foremost, the behaviors in which we interact at an interpersonal level and at a community level suggest that even if you did something to women, even if you killed a woman or you raped a woman, you will get away with it because of just the lack of accountability that we see. And all of those factors contribute to the rising statistics of gender-based violence and femicide.
Now, we saw the march that was led by the AmaZulu King earlier today in Durban. Do you believe that initiatives such as the march that took place today have a direct impact on the scourge of GBV itself?
So I listened to the clip that you were saying, and of course we do need men and men in leadership to basically stand up and speak out against gender-based violence. I don't think that is a problem. But it is what follows that speech. So the involvement of men in the fight against gender-based violence, a march on its own is not going to solve the issues. And it's like when you are in an environment where they denounce the action, but the environment itself is not conducive for change to happen. So for me, I think what is more important than the march is how in the nation that the king leads is how they are questioning norms and practices that basically make it difficult, number one, for women to speak out, but also number two, that makes it permissive for men to act in a particular manner. Now, when there is no reflection, a sense of reflection, and a sense of you are going to make sure that there is accountability, a march seems to suggest that the problem is external to yourself and yourselves. And I think the best judge of whether or not a march such as that is going to have effect is what are the conversations that happen within the different regiments, within the different communities, with different people. How are women, young women, unmarried women, or women of any age or sexual orientation able within the Zulu monarchy, within the area that the Zulu monarch has jurisdiction over. How is that environment enabling women to speak out? Now I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. So for an example, and I'm not talking about the Zulu culture per se,
right,
but there will be reports of in rural areas, just as an example, when a man has raped a woman, when a man has even raped a child, the family will then accept a livestock, a cow, a goat, a sheep, as a way of saying, I am sorry. Now, if a practice like that still happens, for argument's sake, but we have sat down and culturally we have denounced the abuse or the rape of women, that march is not going to take away a practice that is culturally acceptable of if this transgression happens, this is how you deal with it. And what it then does is that it does not see the woman as somebody who has suffered a violation, but in fact, it finds a cultural expression where a man will not even be taken to court, but will be dealt with in a particular cultural manner. And as I say, I'm not saying that that is a Zulu practice, but I'm simply saying that in a lot of ways, when you then do not address some of the norms that exist in a particular community that challenges some of the practices that exist, and those norms don't change, then a march is simply a demonstration of we've done something, but very little changes at a fundamental level.
So practically, what do we then do, especially when it comes to cultural practices, in ensuring that the moral fiber of our country is refined using our cultural practices, but ensuring that we are able to tackle things such as GBV and gender-based violence? How do we use our cultural practices in a most practical way in informing people, in changing the way we do things?
So the voice of the monarchy is very important, but what happens after that voice is also of equal importance. So at what point are we sitting with the men and going through a process of reflection, unlearning, and relearning? For an example, let's say we are in a cultural practice where women's voices in decision-making is not considered. How are we, as the people who hold power, let's say we are in a culture where the men hold power, how are we ourselves starting by questioning our own practices, unlearning them, and then relearning and renegotiating them? And this can even happen within religion and within churches. How are we encouraging those that are likely to be abused to speak out and are believed? How do we treat amongst ourselves men who've got power when a woman comes out and say, this man has abused me? How are we encouraging that when reporting has happened, there is accountability? And I think practically it is about creating a conducive space for those that are most affected by the problem. In this case, it is GBV, to speak out about what are some of the issues culturally that concern them. How are we challenging practices like ukhola intombi and all of those things that put the responsibility of virginity on the woman, but it does not put it on the man? So you can see that in a lot of ways, the task is that of renegotiation, and it's going to happen with partners. There's a lot of organizations, including organizations that deal with HIV and AIDS, including organizations that deal with rape and sexual violence. We've got an NSP in South Africa,
right,
on how to end GBV. How is various cultural groups, not only the Zulu monarchy, engaging with those instruments and coming and bringing partners who will help them unpack what some of them mean, but informed by the voices of those that are most affected by gender-based violence.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I was really interested to know where we draw the line between distorting culture and finding the evolution of culture. Unfortunately, our time is up this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Lebo Ramafoko, the Executive Director of Oxfam, speaking to us there about the march that was held against gender-based violence.